Hello everyone, I hope this finds you and your family safe and well again. It's a wee summary video of the more detailed letter that I sent out to you on Friday as promised after last week's Sunday's letter. The purpose of the video is for those of you that don't want to read a 10-page letter, and I'm also aware that parents are telling me that the kids far prefer to watch the videos than they do the long letters, and that's hardly surprising. So I'm going to save time. I'm going to make this video and subdivide it into sections for you, but I'm going to do that at the time I'm walking my dogs as well. I hope that's okay with everyone. So first things first. I'm sure the very first thing that everyone wants to know is when are we all going back, and that is that all the teachers will go back on Tuesday the 11th of August for an in-service day, and then we'll have the S1s, the senior pupil leadership team, and those youngsters who require a bit of an extended return to school, they'll all come back on Wednesday the 12th, Thursday the 13th and Friday the 14th of August for full day sessions. If you're in S5 and S6 and you wish an extended support for getting back to school before we all come back on Monday the 17th, then please send an email to your guidance teacher and let them know that you've got some concerns, and we'll have you back in. We'll have you spending time with our pastoral team, making sure that we can take away any anxiety you have and get you ready for coming back on the 17th. Likewise, I think it's important that every youngster has the opportunity to return to school next week. So on Friday the 14th, any S2, S3 and S4 pupil who wishes an extended transition back into school before we all come back on the 17th, again, please just send an email to the guidance teacher, let them know that you want to come in and we'll welcome you back. Get a session going with a pastoral team and making sure that you feel comfortable coming back to school. Now, some special arrangements for S1 obviously. The S1 pupils will all make their way to school, and can you please not arrive before 8:45? I know you'll be keen, but if you arrive between 8:45 and 9 o'clock, there'll be 4 queues at the front door of the school. They're in clans. If you can't remember what clan you're in, someone will help you. We have staff and senior pupils there to help you. You'll queue briefly in your clan lines and you'll make your way to one of the gyms that we've set aside to do a welcome for each clan, again supported by the senior pupils and the staff. After you've had a wee welcome in the gym, staff will escort you to your My Time class, and at that My Time class you'll get an online welcome from myself, and you'll get guidance on how to move about the building, about how we're going to ensure our hygiene and how we're going to keep you all safe. And you'll get some information about your new classes and you'll get your new timetables. And then after that we'll get some other more interesting activities for you for day one. And then on the Thursday and the Friday you're going to follow your new timetable. Now S1s will obviously be wanting to know all about lunch. That's usually the first question we get, and the lunches will be pre-ordered. That will be done first thing in the morning and given to the canteen, and then the lunches will be provided in the atrium, so please don't worry about that. We do have a new online cashless catering system that doesn't involve loading money into machines. It means that parents have to go online and use the 10-digit code that they've been given by the council, and please do that. It will save us sharing cash, and it will save us putting money in machines. And but if you do forget to do that or you can't get on, please don't worry. Just put your child's money in an envelope with their name and their class in it, and we'll sort it out in the office. But one of the first questions we're always asked is over the use of PPE. Now, the Scottish Government have repeatedly said that schools are relatively safe places to be. It's full of youngsters who spread the COVID far less than adults, and you can find the details of that, scientific guidance, etc., linked to the document that I sent you last Sunday. However, we still obviously need to use PPE as a precautionary measure whenever we think it's useful to do so, and obviously the main PPE actually comes with the use of hand sanitizer and even washing our hands. And there is plenty gel. In fact, there's gel as soon as you walk in the door, there's gel in toilets, there's gels in every classroom, basically everywhere you go. And we're going to encourage the youngsters to use the gel every time they leave a class, enter a class, go to the toilet, have lunch, come back into school. And so hand sanitisation is an absolute key priority. There will be a couple of times when we'll need to insist on using face coverings, and that would be in classes like home economics, for example, where we've got a cooker face to face with one another, so there'd be an increased risk there. So face coverings in home economics, or perhaps in certain other classes depending on the activity, but generally we don't insist that youngsters need a face covering or gloves. In fact, it's advisable not to wear gloves and instead to focus on washing your hands. Other PPE that would come into play, of course, would depend on whether someone was clinically vulnerable or whether there had been an accident, in which case we might want to use PPE there too. But generally, PPE is not necessarily in the school. So I mentioned they had to bring masks when they come to school, so what else do they need to bring when they come along to school? Well, there will still be a need to do PE. I think PE is crucial to our health and well-being, and the only problem with that is, of course, that we're not allowed to do indoor PE. So all PE is to be outdoors, and when we live in Argyll, that means we're going to get wet. So I'd ask that all pupils bring a change of clothing, and that ideally they bring a towel as well, so that if they've been outside doing a PE activity and they come back in and they need to dry off, they've got a towel, and when they need to get changed, they get changed. And of course that leads us on to a discussion about clothing, and I'm often asked, oh, do they need uniform? Yes, they do need uniform. We're trying to make the school as normal as we possibly can, and so all the same rules apply. So schools right across the country have been told by the government there's no reason to deviate from a normal uniform rule, so please come wearing your uniform or whatever you would wear each day still needs washed as you would normally wash it. So whether you come in a t-shirt or you come in a uniform, it still has to be washed that night. So what other kit do you need, and what other cleanliness things do we need to put in place? Another thing we're asked is, can they bring a bag? Well, they'll need a bag. They'll need a bag, and perhaps they'll use that bag to bring in textbooks we give them, or perhaps they'll have their jotters in there, their pencil case, their packed lunch box if they bring a packed lunch, and a water bottle. And it's important that when the water bottles and the packed lunch boxes go home, that they're washed every night. How we're going to make sure there's no any cross-contamination, we're going to make sure that the youngsters do not share their bag, their water bottle or their equipment, that the bags are taken from class to class, that they're just stored underneath their chairs, and their jackets will go in the back of the chairs, and that'll be something that will be repeated over and over. Please do not share equipment from one pupil to another, and if you don't do that, it's perfectly safe to look after your own gear as long as you're washing it when you go home. Now, I mentioned lunch boxes, which obviously gets me on to the next subject, which is breaks and lunches. Breaks is relatively simple. Youngsters are in longer classes in the morning. I'll tell you about timetable in a minute. But the breaks, they stay in class. They are not allowed to leave their classroom to go for a break. And the reason for that is that we don't want to mix up to 1,000 people in the school just for a 15-minute break. Children will, of course, get downtime away from their studies so that they can mentally recharge and chill and have a blether to their pals. They'll get out to go to the toilet whenever they need to during class time, although that will be monitored to make sure they're not all going out in large numbers so that we have queues and too many people at the toilet, obviously. But yeah, break time's pretty easy. However, lunchtime is a different kettle of fish. With the exception of S1s, who we have always kept in between the start of the term and Christmas for social reasons. Basically, if the S1s stay in, they make pals, and if they make pals, their entry to Oban High School is so much easier, then they have to stay in. But we can't keep all the S2s to S6s contained within the school. It's simply not possible. It's not desirable by many parents at the current time, and it wouldn't be possible for us to police working out if that 500 could go out and that 500 had to stay in. So we are going to have to allow our children to go out, but we will be driving home the message, and we hope that parents would do so as well, that if pupils do leave the school grounds during that time, that they should be going out and socially distancing, keeping to the same bubbles we have created for them in school, and when they do meet other members of the community or go to shops, etc., that they should always be wearing a mask. And when they come back into school, they should be coming back wearing the mask as well. And obviously when they come back in through the door, we'll be gelling their hands, etc., all over again. In terms of how we're going to manage lunch times with so many kids and having so many different big bubbles, we are dividing the school up into different areas. So S1s, for example, will use the atrium, S2s the large game hall, S3s another games hall, etc., etc. And that's all contained within the detail letter. The name of the game here is, can we keep our S1s separate from our S2s, S3s, S4s, and 5 and 6s are taught together, so they'll get to go for lunch together as well. And the timetable will allow us to do that, and so will the split lunches. In terms of ordering lunch, clearly we can't have huge queues of people, so what we'll do is we'll run a pre-order system. At the very beginning of the day, the kids will say what they want from a menu, and then that'll be sent to the canteen, and the canteen staff will prepare packs for each individual youngster, and if they are going to have their lunch in the atrium, it will be delivered to the atrium. If they're going to the games hall, it will be delivered to the games hall. The big change will be that we will not allow pupils to bring any item of food from out with the school. So if they go to wherever and buy food from wherever, then they have to eat that at the place they've bought it or on the way in, if that's the case. So that's lunchtime, and of course how are you going to pay for that? I mentioned earlier that we have a cashless catering system. Well, we can't queue up at the revaluers, so what we're going to have to do is ask all parents to register for the Pay It system that's on the council's website. The S1's parents will already have received a letter from the council directly. We will issue a letter on day 1, Monday the 17th, or day 1 of everybody being in, Monday the 17th, and that letter will go home, and if you could follow the instructions in that using the 10-digit code that we'll give you, and go and pay online for lunches. We will give the youngsters lunches without payment until that's set up. So on Monday the 17th, when they all come in, you won't have had the letter to set that system up. Don't worry, we'll give them lunches and we'll just deduct that lunch at a later date. Please use that system, because if you use that system, if you can, then that avoids big queues, lots of kids mixing, and lots of cash transference, which again increases the risk of spreading COVID. So that leads us on to timetabling. Now, I have to begin by saying thank you very much to Gemma Playfair, to Aileen Jackson and to Nan Johnston. Our 3 timetablers have worked tirelessly to rejig the entire school timetable in a week. It would normally take about 4 or 5 weeks to write the timetable. The important point about this timetable is that we are aiming not to move our youngsters around the building every 45 minutes, 8 times a day like we would normally do. That's far too big a risk of COVID transference. So the new timetable allows us to create less movement by having 2 sessions a day, a morning and an afternoon session. So the timetable structure has been sent to you in a separate document attached to the letter that I sent out on Friday, and I would ask that you have a look at that. The important thing to note is that it's less movement, and that reduces the risk. So I mentioned the importance of limiting movement, and as well as limiting the movement of the pupils, we have to limit the movement of the visitors, the guests and the parents who wish to come to school. So from a parental point of view, can I just say that sadly we will not allow any parents to come to the school unless it's for an emergency. So if you needed to pick up your youngster, perhaps they'd been at an accident on the rugby pitch or something, and you wanted to go up to the hospital with them, yes, of course you could come to the school, collect your child and go to the hospital. However, all other meetings between school staff and parents will have to be done on the phone, or we will continue to develop our Google Meet setup where we can do video conferencing with you, because I think that's much better, having face-to-face discussions. Please do not drive to the school. The car park is closed to parents. The reason for that is we want to limit the amount of parents driving their youngsters into the car park. All the youngsters get out and end up mixing. So unless you have a medical need, please do not come to the school at all. Communication can take many forms, and I've mentioned in person, and I've mentioned Google Meet, and I've mentioned the importance of telephone conversations, the personal touch. However, lots of the communication that takes place between school and parents comes in the use of email. And so I would also ask that rather than call us and ask to speak to teachers who are often teaching, or guidance teachers who are often in meetings discussing things with other parents, please send us an email in the first instance, and one of the guidance staff or one of the teachers or one of the deputies or myself will get back to you as soon as we're able. And if we've already read your email, we already know what information to look out, so that when we do call you back, things are a lot smoother and a lot quicker. Having said that, of course, if it's an emergency, just pick up the phone and phone us. And we also strongly encourage you to sign up for the school app for parents that we use. There's over 900 parents on it, but not all of you are in it. So sign up for that and you'll get notification when a letter, a news item or whatever comes out. It also is an online calendar for all the events that are going on in the school throughout the year. So the school app for parents, great app, please sign up. Pupils like wee videos like this. We put them on YouTube where the pupils watch them, and we highlight them or highlight the key messages on Instagram. And then I'm aware that parents have been sitting watching the videos with the youngsters, so that's a good thing. One of the last things I want to cover is transport. Now, there is detailed information of how our pupils will travel safely on the buses, on the trains, on the ferries and on the planes, all of which bring our youngsters into school. I'd ask you to read that particular guidance note on the letter. However, the basic thing to remember is your youngster will need a face covering to travel on any form of transport, even if it's transport that has pupils only. Again, that's to do with us trying not to mix our bubbles. So, face coverings in every mode of transport. Can I also say that you should consider the government advice, which is encourage your youngster to cycle or walk wherever possible. When you're coming to school in a car, if you can't avoid it, then please do not park anywhere near the school. Park a safe distance away from the school and a safe location and drop your youngster off there. That will ensure that the youngsters are spread out as they make their way towards the school. And wherever possible, try not to car share. I know that's normally ecologically friendly, but at the current juncture, the advice is please don't car share because that increases the risk. So that's the end of my wee video. I've covered everything from the days that the youngsters are coming back to how they'll move about the building, their new timetable, the breaks, the lunches, the hygiene, the transport, the communication. If you have any questions that's still outstanding after watching this video, please read the letter. If you still have questions after reading the letter, please email the guidance teacher and someone will get back to you ASAP. And I'm thoroughly looking forward to seeing all the youngsters next week. I would encourage you all to enjoy the last few days. The sun's out, have a lovely time, and I'll see you all soon. Thank you.